Zeegnition, as you will have experienced over the last 2 years, is been all about great cars, people, racers. But have you thought or shed a thought for what was the pioneering effort of so many of the people who made the car what it is today? This is a first for an Indian television show. We are talking about probably the first automobile ever to run with an internal combustion engine in the world. In the year 1884, 85, 86, two Germans, Gottlieb Daimler and Karl Benz, working together parallelly but not without each other's knowledge, started perfecting the internal combustion engine. Gottlieb Daimler made the first vehicle powered by an internal combustion engine, which was the precursor to the motorcycle. But he was more interested in the engine rather than the vehicle. But not Karl Benz. Karl Benz decided that he wanted to perfect the internal combustion engine, but also to do it along with a vehicle which could replace the horse or horse-drawn carriages. So he did the first production vehicle in the world, a three-wheeler, which is akin to what we see here. It's very easy to what you call think across spindly wheels and whatnot, but given the passion with which enthusiasts really want to acknowledge the automobile and its history, can you imagine one institute in India, an educational institute where talent is plenty, they only needed honing, and we have got the opportunity for an assembly line of Karl Benz's first masterpiece. And with me here is none other than Mr. G.D. Gopal from the G.D. Naidu Educational Institutes, who the students make these cars. The people are passionate about not just cars alone, anything they set their hands to. Mr. Gopal, thank you for having us over here and showing us your handiwork. It is mind-blowing, to say the least.
Thank you.
What is the biggest thing which got you to do this car? What was the basic idea with which you attempted to do this?
It's a lot of handwork. Karl Benz made the car when only a lathe and a drilling machine were available. He was able to make it. So anybody should be able to make it. So why can't we?
I remember you mentioning to me earlier that if any time a Rolls-Royce had to be made anywhere else in the world in the formative years, it could only have been in India.
Yeah, my father always used to say, my father worked in Rolls-Royce factory, and when he came back he said, if a Rolls-Royce is to be made other than in England, it can only be in India, because we have the craftsmen in all the fields, in leather, in wood, in mechanical, in foundry, everything. So he always said that we can do it. And I think we can easily do it.
I think that when you started this project, went through a lot of trials and tribulations you faced in getting the specifications or the drawings, and that itself was a Herculean task, which we don't have time to say on the program. But once you got everything, I think it took you, what, 5 months or 6 months by the time you...
6 months.
6 months from the time they had the drawings?
No, we made the drawing.
You made the drawing. So since 6 months from the time you bought the replica yourself,
yeah.
So they bought a replica which was available in Germany, and they reverse engineered it. Their students got, their 40 or 50 students were given the complete replica. They were stripped down, and every student got 10 or 12 parts to measure and duplicate and get the drawings off. And that itself is one of the key things where you see not just a near faithful replica of Karl Benz's handiwork, but also qualitatively what was the state of the art in automobile or vehicle engineering, rather, to say the least, in that era, in that century. So, with your permission, shall we take the wheel and drive?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay. So now what we are going to do is, we are going to see the starting practice of how the engine starts firing up. So the large flywheel is to be cranked, and once you crank, manually cranking, so as you can see, the single cylinder, horizontally laid down single cylinder engine is now fired. Because it was so simple, you could make out every beat of the 4-stroke engine going, and that's how the exhaust is spaced up. I think it's time to take the wheel. You get into the vehicle or get onto the vehicle from the right hand side, but it's a left hand drive vehicle. Mr. Naidu, please join us. Gopalji, please join us. Everything is controlled by this lever. You get the lever in front and we start working, and that's how she goes. I think this vehicle is good enough for 30 kilometers per hour, as you said. So this is really looking like 100 kilometers per hour being out in the open. It is simple but effective. The car can do 30 kilometers per hour, as Mr. Gopal has mentioned. But that 30 kilometers per hour, given the open environment, feels like we are doing 90 kilometers per hour. So you can understand that this is what the modern car evolved from. Also, one very important historic point I would like to say, that the first ever journey by a motor car was done by Karl Benz's wife, Bertha Benz, and her 2 daughters. So never ever point a finger and make fun of lady drivers, because they, really speaking, got town-to-town motoring going in the world. So this is it, a big drive in this car with which started the automobile revolution. Steering wheel is a tiller. The arrowhead points to the direction in which you want to travel. This is the accelerator as well as the brake. Very simple. It's just like the twist and grow on a CVT scooter. You put it in front, she starts rolling. You pull it back, it stops. Simplicity to the hilt. Very, very basic steering, really big cycle type wheels, floorboard over here. And in case you really want to know about it, Karl Benz invented the mid-engine supercar of its time, because this is a mid-engine, it's not a rear engine. So think about it. All what is new is just not new. It was invented over 130 years ago. Automobile engineering today is a highly complex architecture across the whole car, but it was simplicity personified in the 1880s. In fact, it could have been state of the art then, because this would have seemed very complex then. But if you look at this, Karl Benz engine, the single cylinder, is one cast unit. The entire thing is one cast unit. If you also see the push rods which go on for the inlet and the exhaust, very, very long ones. This is the fuel tank, and if you care to look at this, this is the carburetor, and there is a very particular means by which you can play with the quantum of air coming in to the carburetor. If you care to look at these holes over here, which are manually adjustable from the dashboard, so the throttle control could be done whether you want to increase the RPM, you want to have a very steady low RPM. Quite a lot of it is simplicity with good engineering thought. And again, the crankshaft was exposed because we had still not gone on to many things, so that's the reason why we needed forced lubrication many a time. And these lubricating injectors are there. This lubricating injector in fact is for the piston, and if you care to look at this lubricating injector, it's for the inlet valve. So yes, there have been progress, but this is the granddaddy of all automobiles in the world. Drive to the wheels, which we went to the differential, is from the engine's crank, which goes on via a V-belt, not a V-belt, a leather belt, which goes across there, and then it is transmitted to the front sprockets. And if you can see, this is the drive which goes just like it would have happened in a motorcycle, so to speak. If you care to look at the chassis members, the long irons, this was still a throwback to the stagecoach era, where horse-drawn stagecoach really used to take people place to place. So the chassis had yet to evolve. The wheels also are large, big ones. Today we think about 21-inch wheels for big SUVs and whatnot, but then this is the essence of motoring then at the turn of the century, or at the very birthplace of the car. And by and large, craftsmanship which is there, stagecoach stuff, also happened across with your floorboards, which were again wooden. The sort of leather cushioning and the leather stitching was very, very much throwback from the stagecoach customization then. A very nifty footrail to climb up. Again, a very strong front member for anchoring the one wheel in place. I like the tiller steering because it has a pointer in the direction in which you want to steer. The steering wheel yet had to make an appearance, but fine, there's no problem about that. This is what I meant by when I spoke about the throttle control for the air-fuel mixture to be what you call. So you turn it round if you wanted more revs, if you wanted to have a steady throttle position. This is the one switch for the on and off to cut off the ignition. Simple but highly effective, because you needed that to be. Metallurgy was very different in those days, and care to think about it, today's cars are not that much different, because everything what you see, the basic principles from here have metamorphosed in even the latest S-Class Mercedes-Benz, which is at the pinnacle of this craft in the world today.